All right, welcome back to Talking Tea, and we are covering Andor, Episode 10, One Way Out. As you know, this is our tea time. I'm drinking some white tropical chai. My name's Eric. Aaron, what are we drinking?
Oh man, I don't even remember, to be honest. It's some sort of green tea with mint leaves in it.
Very good. Connor, welcome back. What are you drinking?
I'm still drinking water.
That's great. That's great. And Skylar, back again. What do we got?
As always, fresh Diet Coke was just cracked as we started the episode.
Oh, what? Is this canned Diet Coke?
It is canned today,
Right.
actually, and it's caffeine free because
Whoa.
it's getting late.
Nah. Well, glad to have everyone back. We're missing our friend Herb, as you guys, as faithful listeners would know, but we'll have him back in the saddle here soon. But yeah, so we're talking about Andor, episode 10. We're in our last stretch of 3 episodes, so very excited to kind of cover the crescendo of season 1. Anyone have any initial thoughts about this, about this episode, about our, the journey we've had? Anything really sticking out to you guys about, feeling excitement as we kind of wrap up this season?
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it's a great turning point for the season.
Well, let's dive in. Let's start out. We're talking about where we left off on Narkina 5, the prison in the water. That's very similar to the raft, and we start off with our boy Olaf in a body bag. If I had a soundboard, again, I would have the Karate Kid sound. When he's like screaming, it's like, put him in a body bag. Yeah, that was great sound. That would be right now. Again, if we can raise money, maybe we'll have a soundboard one day. But immediately, you kind of see the disregard to life, I would say, that the Empire has, because they just wheel this guy right through the workroom. Like, just zip him up, put him in a bag, and just throw him away like he's trash. Like, literally bagged him up, walked him right through. He's gone. And then we have our first real, tense moment of the episode, because we get this back and forth between Kino Loy and Andor. And what do you guys think of this initial dynamic? I think we see two wills at play, one trying to change the other, because we get Cassian, and he says, listen, they're understaffed, they are fearful that when everyone finds out about this situation, they're going to have to get more guards. They're going to get more guards. This is the best chance we have to act quick. What do you guys think of this interaction?
I think, my notes I had kind of that, I think this is the point in kind of the prison arc where, Cassian kind of takes over the leadership role. This is more towards the end of the conversation, but at the end when he tells Kino to get on program, I feel like it's kind of the point where it shifts from Kino's the leader to Cassian's now the leader. Even though Kino's still kind of taking that role as far as inspiring the men and everything, Cassian is the one who's leading the effort. So I thought that was kind of a big turning point in this particular arc.
Yeah, I was going to say basically the same thing. It's a big transfer of power in that beginning of that speech to the end of Kino being in charge, and then Andor just kind of taking over, and we see that play out very shortly.
I did not notice that. Being 100% honest, I did not pick up on that that transition in power, because I think that, obviously as we go through the episode, we will see Andor really is trying to compel Kino to lead, even though he has to take it over, and like how you guys said, he's trying to compel Kino to say, you need to be at the forefront of this. I can try my best, but you need to be at the forefront. And Kino has a real struggle, like an internal struggle with this. I think you see it multiple times. Like when he first talks about it, like when Cassian first talks about this, he's just trying to disregard. He's just trying to blow it off. Just be like, whatever, you're nuts. Like, let's just, get back on program. And Kino's trying to just fight it. Like he says, the Empires, they're not fearful by frying the floor. He says he calls that power. And does anyone know, I have the line, like, best line nominee for what Andor says about that. Does anyone remember?
Yeah, I've got that in my notes too. The power doesn't panic.
Power doesn't panic. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I think that makes a lot of sense. If you are truly powerful, you don't have to react. You are setting the tone. And they were right. Like, and he was right. They did not have the power in that situation. They were panicked. And then you see, at least you see when he's talking, you see that panic in Kino's face when he tries to get his on program. He's like, just get on program. And you can see that internal panic or fear when he realizes, like, listen, Andor, he might be right. Connor, I feel like you're a big Kino guy. Any thoughts about his struggle right there? Like as he's trying to figure it out, as he has this metamorphosis of his emotions or feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I was waiting for you guys to finish because I had a question on this part. Does he know now that the time at his bunk is a lie? Has he already learned that yet?
So
I think that he's learned it, but he hasn't come to grips with it.
Okay, so the previous guy's already been killed at this point, and it's come out, and he's just trying to process this now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because this is directly after the scene with the doctor.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, yeah, that makes more sense. I was trying to remember it back. That's what I was doing while you guys were talking. Yeah, that was definitely an interesting part because I do think he's having an internal struggle on what's going on, but I really enjoy him. And up to this point, he was, I don't say he was the Emperor's, he was the Empire's puppet, but he was he was all about the system. He trusted it. He was like, this works. He's like, we have to do is do our time, do it well, and it'll be fine. And then his world came crashing down. So at the time, he's kind of just reeling, and he's trying to find a foothold on what to believe in again. And it's almost like Andor's trying to fill that gap and let him know that there is something that he can believe in that is truthful and has some substance behind it.
yeah, I think I made this point in the past, and if I didn't, then I guess it's a good point to bring up now. But if you've ever read The Animal Farm, the book, there's the horse that they talk about a lot, and the horse's main thing is if I just keep working harder, it'll all work out. He keeps working harder, and turns out he ends up basically killing himself from working so hard, because no matter how hard he worked, it never really did make a difference. It didn't really impact what was happening, and because it never was supposed to. And I feel like that's the Kino Loy at this point, where he's just listen, just keep working. I'm counting down my days and keep working no matter what, even when he can kind of expect and realize that's maybe not accurate, that's not truthful, and he just can't come to grips with it. At least that's the way I see it, and obviously we start to see that start to change as he finally gets into his cell, and Andor's trying, or Keith as he goes by, is talking about what happened, and some people are like, I don't believe him, that's not sure, and you kind of get this back and forth until Kino finally just spits it out. He says, we are not getting out. Again, with this scene, it drives me nuts how nonchalantly Andor almost dies so many times by the floor, and they're like, Keith, the floor, and he's just walks, and he's literally in the air on his last step, and that floor turns on. I'm like, this is not real. If you would die immediately, I'm telling you, you're running a little faster. It drove me nuts again that it got annoyingly close. I don't know if anyone else noticed that.
Yeah, our notes are going right in line tonight because I had the next thing I had was Cassian is all caps playing with fire with this electric floor.
Literally.
He's every single episode at least once he just like hops right off of it with like half a second left.
Now
Yeah.
he got to see it in action, didn't he? Like he knows it's true. Like it's not something that he's heard of, but he hasn't seen it in action. He saw somebody react to it. Isn't that correct? In like a previous episode.
He's gotten shocked before. Remember when they first get there, they use the floor on him. To, like,
they don't
set
give
the
it-
precedent. They
But
don't
isn't
kill
the
him,
floor
obviously.
like once they're in for the night? Isn't if they step on it like that'll just straight kill him though? Like he got like
Yeah.
a low dose.
Yeah,
Okay.
someone steps on the floor in the middle of the night. One of the episodes, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
they just couldn't handle it anymore. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I just couldn't remember what episode it was.
Yeah, I don't think he watches it, but obviously, you know, he knows. Like, obviously, he puts it together. Like, the guy steps out there and goes. But, yeah, no, they realize it's a pretty real thing. He's just this nonchalant. Just whatever happens. It drives me nuts, especially because he's formulating a giant plan to escape. No way he's going out like that. So it drives me nuts that he's like, let me just mosey on over to my room. Like, but... yeah, that all ends with Kino finally saying, like, morning comes, he said, we're done counting shifts, which is, of course, his flip, where that's all he did. He kept reciting how many shifts he has left. He kept talking about, hey, you're the next one out. And obviously, that was never the case. And he says there is one way out. And, you know, obviously, there's where we get our episode name, One Way Out, and it's said multiple times, but... yeah, so that's Narkina 5, and then we go over to the ISB HQ. We're back and focusing on the Krieger and the bait. Did anyone pick up anything at this point about Lonnie? Because they obviously start talking about how to handle this situation.
I did think one note I had was that this is, I feel like, the first time that Young makes a suggestion and Partagaz doesn't just like crap all over him. Just like in the other episodes we talked about, every time he speaks, Partagaz just like rips him to shreds.
Yeah.
But this time he's just like, yeah, you're right, you know, good with his plan.
And it seems like Dedra gets a little suspicious of him when he does talk, because I don't know why, but they like pan over to her and she gives him like a suspicious look after he talks, which is revealing to things we see later on.
Yeah, I must have not been thinking right. I took that look as like almost like a disgust that like her plan was not being the one that was picked, or like that she was, I don't know if bested is the right word, but you know, like
Yeah.
a typical know-it-all, like.
I could definitely see it that way as well.
Yeah, I think I leaned Aaron's way too. I thought it was just like she was annoyed by the fact that she did not have the plan, that she didn't think of it, that like it was not being like everything on her being used. So she was like, well, this is dumb. Like I should be always in the right. I should always be making these decisions. I should always be the one that has the right idea. So that's the way I leaned. Connor, did you even have an opinion on this? Did you think much of it?
No, I honestly didn't.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we see that, you know, they've killed this guy again in cold blood. Like, nothing even happened. They didn't even regard it. And they sent him out for Krieger to take the bait. And then again, Lonnie makes the point, like, hey, we need to be suspicious. We need to act like we would notice this. This is what we would do. And, of course, that's what they choose to do. And then we have a quick detour as we jump around the universe that we get to Ferrix again. You see the stormtroopers now very present at Ferrix. And we see Sinta is watching, but we also have a new character that we've kind of focused on. Don't know a name really, but know that someone else is present. Don't know good or bad at this situation. And we know that Marva is struggling. She's hiding her med pills because, of course, can't just be medicine. Got to be med pills. And we know that it's not looking good. They're calling in a doctor. I really scoured as we are playing Droid Tycoon. Our new thing is always looking for droids. Did not see any droids at this juncture. Did anyone else catch something that I missed?
Nope, did not.
Or did I?
Yeah, if Aaron didn't catch one, then we are vindicated. But I was looking. I was definitely looking. Anyone initial thoughts on this new character? The guy that they've kind of made a point to note that he was there. Did you guys think, like, this is probably a good guy, this is probably a bad guy, this is someone we don't, what did you guys think? Or did you just think, there's a guy?
I thought he was a spy off the rip from ISB, but I wasn't ever sure. At least not watching this episode, and I don't remember if they reveal who he is, but...
They don't reveal it in this episode, I know that for sure.
Yeah, I was very suspicious of him. Whether he was a spy for the Rebellion or for the ISB.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't actually recall the
character
scene right now. So, yeah.
Well, basically, the main point of the scene is just to check in, see how Marva's doing, or essentially know the fact that it's not going well. Until we go back to Coruscant, which I really love this scene. This is probably, wow, man, there's just so many good scenes in this, but I really enjoy this interaction. So we get Davo Skuldin in Coruscant, in the place of Mon Mothma, and all the riches, where he is, of course, a very wealthy, I don't know what the term would be for him. I guess I would argue it's some sort of, like, nefarious banker? I don't know what you...
Yeah, I have in my notes, he is there for fluid banking, in quotes.
Yeah, fluid banking. He is definitely like a back channel guy. He's not doing everything by the books, as they know. As we talked about in last episodes, where he is, not well regarded. And the first thing that he says that I'm like, of course, he's like, I've met your husband a few times.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, of course, stinking punchable Perrin deals with this guy. He's always messing things up and making things horrible. Of course. That's immediately what I thought of when he was talking about it. And then he talks about his preference. He loves the new versus the old ways. He's even though it's cliche, it's not. He likes probably the new way of doing things that made him wealthy. That he was able to be, successful doing things his own way. But then everyone sits down on the couch. I wrote in my notes, they're sitting on a big couch 5 feet apart because they're not gay. Just like the vine, because they are very spread out. Everyone's at odds, and you can tell. It's an uncomfortable situation for two of them. I would argue Davo is very comfortable in his situation. He is not at all upset about what's going on, and he does not feel weird about this situation. But Davo specifically talks about, hey, I can move your money, no problem, no Imperial oversight, no problem. But does he remember, do you guys remember what he asked for?
I do. I actually do remember this part.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah. What's he say, Connor?
So it's going to be awkward if I don't get it right. But he asked for an introduction between, like, her daughter and his son. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This was extremely interesting, and it's obviously layered. It's obviously not just an introduction, but I think it's one of those things where he wants to almost get into the society and have a grip and say that he is legitimate, when he obviously all around him is shady stuff, or people just outright know that he is a criminal, just to put it just out there. And I almost think it's also shaded because of her, because of the planet that they're from, that this, like, is basically not just an introduction. It's like, hey, if they hit it off, great, but if they don't hit it off, this is still going to end in marriage. But he just doesn't come right out and say it. But I think that's almost identified right out of the gate.
Okay, so I'm really interested in this. So yes, you're right. He wants his 14-year-old son to meet her 13-year-old daughter. That is what he wants. Obviously, he initially is like, I don't need money, and they are like, listen, we don't want to owe you any favor. Like, the whole conversation is very coded, it feels like. You know, everything they say is, you know, kind of like pursing of the lips. Not always exactly what it means, which I always find so interesting. But it comes down to that, and she doesn't want to owe him any favors, and he says this. So he claims not asking for betrothal, because he knows that would be the Chandrillan way, it's, you know, arranged marriage. So he claims that. I had a discussion question. Is this as drastic as an overstep as Mon Mothma makes it apparent to be? So the argument is he really just asking for an introduction, or is it like 100% implied, like, hey, I know I'm saying it's not for betrothal, but it's for betrothal? Because I took it as, I think he just literally wants them to meet, and I think he believes that her daughter will be like fond of his son in a way that it will happen that way. But see, I didn't take it as, I just felt like he wasn't actually saying like, I want betrothal. He literally says he does. He's not asking for that in his, like, you know, interaction with them. But I don't know. What did you guys think about the situation? Did you think it was like, yeah, he's definitely asking for betrothal here?
I took it the way you did, Dirkus, but I also believe he has the knowledge that her daughter's been like practicing the old ways and has been studying the old ways, and I think he knows that information. So while he is only asking for an introduction, I think he thinks it'll lead to more. But I did take it as he does only want an introduction, but I think he knows more than he's leading on about the situation.
Yeah, I take a different view on this. I do think that, I mean, it's kind of the character that we're dealing with too, you know what I mean? Like, this guy is not an above board guy. And you said that the conversation is speaking in code. I think he may be saying one thing like, oh no, it's just an introduction. And if it works out that, hey, I know that the daughter is already kind of not doing exactly what the family wants, maybe I can not have to force my hand. And obviously, if you don't have to force your hand, that works out perfectly. But it's like, I do think it's one of those like, yeah, no, it's just an introduction, but nah, this is definitely going somewhere, because this will push me up to a different level of clientele that I'm going to be able to rub elbows with.
Yeah, I kind of took it, I think, more probably the way Connor did, and I think that probably the reason for Mon Mothma's reaction was whether he's like telling the truth about his intentions or not, it still is like opening the door to, now you're not just like doing necessary business with this guy for the the greater good, but now you're like opening your home to him and becoming more like entangled with him, you know. She'd rather just like pay him and be on their way, and it's not like a personal thing.
Yeah, the only reason I thought the way Skylar and I like thought is he just seems so genuine when he's like, I'm not at, like, it just felt, you know, and maybe that's why I'd be scammed by these people, but it felt so genuine when he was like, I'm not asking for betrothal. Like, he actually seemed like there was a change in like a change in tone, like a change in his thought process. But, you know, maybe I'm just a sucker, I don't know. But either way, I think we all agree that no matter what, I think he thinks whether or not this is going to be a guaranteed betrothal or just a first meet, I think we all believe he thinks it's going to end in betrothal, and that's the ultimate point. So, yeah, just an interesting thought. Good thing. If he was dealing with Perrin, probably no doubt this would be a slam dunk.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It might be dealing with Perrin. I mean, you never know.
That's true. But I love this character. I actually think he's like the most genuine character, which again is why I think that. Like, I'm not saying he's a good character. I'm just saying I think he's pretty genuine because what is when he says, "Oh, you know, think about it, whatever," and she's like, "Absolutely not," or "I won't be," or I can't remember how she says it. But do you guys remember what he says? He like turns around and what he says.
That's the first time you lied.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, "This is the first untrue thing you've said. That is the first untrue thing you've said." And he's right. There's no doubt. They're in a bind. They're trying to figure it out, and she's thinking about it. And even if she wants to deny it, even if, you know, she thinks she's not interested and she doesn't have to do it, she's wrong, and he is right about that. So, just love that interaction. Love that scene. To wrap up on Coruscant, we do get to see Clea and Luthen discuss a meeting with this unnamed person who's apparently been working with them indirectly for the last year. Clea, always thinking everything's a trap, and Luthen's like, listen, if it is, we're already toast. So he's going to meet. So we're going to see this interaction, what unfolds there. But, let's see. Get back to Narkina 5. And we have our original, you know, jailbreak unfolding now. So don't forget. Does anyone remember our name for our table of people? Do we remember what we called them? I still have it written down. The table of the workers that Andor's a part of.
Oh man, I don't remember at all.
It's a deep callback. Can't forget about Team Shockingly Productive. And they are discussing how the plan's going to go. And I'm going through a few different people. Again, trying to name everyone from this table would certainly be a fun exercise. But you have Jembach, who can't believe, like, this is going to work. He's basically saying, like, this is not going to work. I can't believe it's going to work. And Taga is the one that says, I'm just going to play dead. Which I wrote down, horrible idea, because they're going to shock the floor and he will actually be dead. So you can't play dead, like you're going to die one way or another in that regard. So did not think that was the best idea from Tog at that exact moment. But hey, you know, we're thinking through a lot of different things. And then we have Kino, as Andor walks by, he says one way out, and that's our second one way out, and he passes him off the tool to break the water pipe. I wrote down, can you imagine, so they're going through all this because they're getting a new prisoner, they're getting someone to replace Olaf. And I said, can you imagine being the guy being put onto the floor, and then this chaos all is about to happen, starts happening? Like, could you imagine, like, man, this is a rough day, and then just pure prison riot. You're like, what on earth is happening? Like, that would be, you would not be prepared for that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that guy.
Yeah, well.
You just get zapped, blasted, not even a part of this.
Yeah. He gets a good lick in, but not much.
He does like the first thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I felt bad. I felt bad for him. I wish he had a better chance. But I wrote down one thing. I wrote down let's see. How does Andor know, like, what time the new prisoner is being put on the floor? So this is one thing I was curious about. So, like, obviously he knew there would be a new prisoner, but he's at the bathroom during that exact time. Did anyone think about that? Am I missing something with that?
Not really. My guess is it's like a standard time that the ship comes in and they get new prisoners. It's the same kind of schedule. But other than that, no, I didn't really think about it.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it either.
No idea.
I also wrote down, how does everyone know the plan? I also wanted that. When did they talk about this? Did they talk about it at night?
That was my guess. Is they talked about it that night after they were going over, after Kiwi started yelling about stuff. They like talked about it in the middle of the night.
Yeah, because everyone had the plan. Everyone was grabbing stuff behind their back. Everyone was, everyone basically understood what was going on.
I think they kind of allude to it a little bit too, because I don't remember if it was. I think it was when they were waking up and like getting in line or something. He was basically like, you hear Kino kind of breaking it down a little bit, and like saying like, no need to tell the night shift. They'll find out like soon enough, So maybe in the morning, like was when they kind of went over it or something. I assume some point overnight or in the morning.
Got it. I wrote down my heart is racing right before the new guy is lowered. Because I said the show does such a great job of getting into the action early in the arc. So like, even there's action early in the episodes, but there's action early in the season. Just different action. Like we get Aldani in like the first 4 episodes. Like we are always constantly in action. And again, we just have this build up of like, this is about to happen, and when you're watching for the first time, you have no idea like how exactly it is going to unfold, other than you probably know something good is going to end up happening with Cassian. Everything outside of that, you just have no idea, but you just know the stakes are raised. So I just remember how much my heart was kind of racing at that point. Let's see. I do note that everyone grabs something retractable as it appears, and that's something that Andor and the other guy that we don't know his name discovered in the previous episode. That is stuff that like they need to be holding on to, grabbing. Does anyone remember them talking about that? I know it's been a bit.
Not really, no. I don't remember.
Well, they start doing that right when they go on program, when they're lowering them down. And then you get the Ham and Zal classic tussle. Like the classic, like, what are you looking at? Or why'd you bump into me? And you're like, come on, this is how we're starting this? It's like, come on. Like, this is like how you start. It's like, what'd you say? And then they just start tussling. And that's when Andor, well, of course, broke the water. So the water's on the floor. They're trying to get that ready. And then he stops the lift, which is the thing that, I didn't notice maybe initially. It's like, that is the important thing. If he doesn't jack, like, the lift into that position, then the whole plan is ruined, because they can rise back up and it's over. That is one thing that I felt like was very underrated, was like, that has to happen right there. But this is where we start getting into the guards. Oh, the guards. They're just... Go, please.
I love how Andor is soaking wet after he comes out of the bathroom. None of the guards, nothing. No one says anything. No one sees it. No one notices that he's just drenched.
Such a good point.
You gotta go. It's intense in there, Yeah. You just gotta let a man be.
It's literally like he is just, like you said, he is just drenched. Just absolutely drenched. And he's just standing there. Well, they don't see him, or they don't notice, apparently, because the guy eventually doesn't notice when he climbs it. But yeah, just completely nothing. The guards already are disastrous. Because as the other guy jumps onto the lift, the new guy, again, not doing anything, doesn't know what's happening. The guard is so confused, the one on the lift, he just absolutely stabs the new guy with a shock sword. Like, what the heck did that guy do? He was just standing there, he gets ripped. And, they're just like, obviously chaos is unfolding. They're not shooting yet. So it made me wonder, do you think these guys are combat trained at all?
Not a lick.
I bet they're like mall cop level,
They really did have no clue, like no earthly idea what they were doing, because they don't they don't, like, at least you can shoot in the air and maybe, like, stop. Like, they just, nothing. They just kind of are surprised about what's happening. So we have chaos. The guy is shocked, but then he gets the guard right back, baby. He picks the sword up and says, you know what, I'm going to shock you. And then, of course, he dies. Very, very quickly. His arc is not great. He doesn't get a speaking role. Not a great time for him, but, you know, tries his best. Tries his best for the situation that's unfolding. The other guy, the guy that has been planning this whole thing with Andor, I think gets a pretty raw deal, because Andor's like, hey, jump up there, you know, where everyone can see you, and they just shoot him. Like, that was not a good plan either. I thought that was, like, not the best idea, to jump up when anyone could notice and then just shoot you. I don't know if anyone else thought that guy got a raw end of the deal, but I really thought that every time I've watched it so far.
Oh yeah, he was just hanging there.
I choose to believe that he's the selfless hero, because someone's got to be first.
Oh, there's guys that are, yeah, no kidding. There's guys that just get wrecked, but yeah, he gets shot. I wrote down the throws to attack the other two guards, not great. There's some pretty bad throws. Like, they're not even close on some of these chucks. And I also wrote, there's only 2 guards with guns, and some dude gets shot twice, which I just laughed at so much. It's like, that was not necessary. They're like, we have, I don't know how many people are in there, like 60. They're like, we're gonna shoot this one dude twice in a row. I'm like, nah, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Anyone notice anything about this shooting sequence, this fight, before they actually get in? Like, before Cassian actually inflicts damage, did anyone notice anything they wanted to mention?
Actually, I think I had something I wanted to mention that was before that, and I forgot. Did anybody else feel like it took them, like, and this might go back into, like, the not combat train, but it took them so long to think to use the floor?
Yes! Yes!
Like, it took probably a good 15 or 20 seconds after the riot starts for someone to be like, hey, hit the electric floor, you know?
And remember, power doesn't panic, and they panicked.
Yeah. That was hilarious to me. It's like, that's their whole thing about this entire prison, and it's their trump card. And a riot starts, and they just totally forget about it.
What if we
for
do?
a while. Yeah.
Well, and you can't even say, like, well, they didn't want to kill everyone. They literally have a not kill everyone setting on the floor. They easily could have done that. Like, they could have just been like, hey, shock them all, so they are, like, laying on the floor in agony. They don't think of that. Not at all. The guy that's sitting at the desk didn't even think to stand. He's like, hey, what's going on out there? It's like, dude, there's a window in front of you. Just stand up and look at them chucking tools at you. So they're not...
No, he doesn't even have it primed. They're like, hit the thing, and he has to flip like 15 switches and then hit the button.
He has to flip the glass case. Oh, cyclograph.
Yeah.
He has to flip that case open. Like, there is like a do not press on accident for this. So at least they care a little bit about the people in their prison that are prisoners with jobs, you know, as we call them. But yeah, it's just so bad. I wrote down, well, actually, like I said, did you guys have any more from that sequence before, like, Cassian actually starts doing his job?
Nope.
Nope.
I wrote down, these guards are literally shooting fish in a barrel, and they killed 4 people. 4. That's all they get. They're literally down below. You're shooting straight down. They have very little, if not any, cover, and they can't do anything. I'm like, these guys are horrible. They are absolutely horrible.
Seen stormtroopers kill more people than that.
Yeah, my goodness, no kidding. So I said, now they've decided to spark the floor, where I guess we didn't think of that 30 seconds ago. But everyone is instructed to get up on the table as they announce it, because apparently they say shock the floor, and then everyone's like, hey, we have enough time to avoid the floor. except for the one dude who apparently was not keen on the plan, who gets shocked and dies. Where was he? How far away was he from a table that he couldn't make it there when everyone else did? Did anyone think that guy probably deserved it? Or do you even remember that scene, that guy dying? Does anyone even remember that?
I remember him. Yeah, I don't know. If he can't get to a table, I mean, I just talked about how long it took him, so like, if he can't get to a table, that's on him.
So, I'll go into the incompetence, but then I want to bring back something. Again, a good thought. They threaten to shock the floor, and they do. And everyone's on top of the table. But as they decide, let's shock the floor, you also think, hey, maybe we could shoot these guys now, because they're all standing. Nope, that's not a thought that goes through anyone's head. They're like, no, we're going to use the floor shock. We don't need to shoot anymore. I'm like, they're right there. They can't move. All you had to do was just shoot them at that point. That doesn't work. My question is, and I wrote it down, I watched 3 times. And maybe I'm missing something. I swear, Kino never gets up on the tables. Did anyone notice this at all? Because he's standing and he said, get up on the table. And then when it cuts away and the floor is shocked, he's still standing on the ground. Did anyone notice this? Am I going crazy? Anyone's thoughts?
I did not notice that at all. No.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I didn't see him on a table, so...
It's hilarious if true.
Yeah, so, anyone that's listening, watch it back, tell me where I'm wrong. I swear he doesn't get on the table. So, maybe he's just insanely impenetrable, and he handles shock very well, but I did not see it. And like I said, when they noticed that the floor is, not working, it literally, like, he's standing on it. So, I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to know if anyone catches that. And I wrote down the water pipe has now caused the floor to short circuit, and now we have a ball game, ladies and gentlemen. Let the games begin. This is where, again, the guards, no idea what's happening. No one has noticed Cassian's just hanging around like a monkey on a monkey bar, just hanging around on that platform, and he just decides, it's time to get up and kind of inflict some pain. But again, the guy over him has horrible awareness of the situation. But as they start to charge, we finally see one of the shockingly productive die. I said, why did Zal decide to throw something at that man? If he waited 10 more seconds, 5 more seconds, they have guns. But he's like, I'm just going to go on a limb and throw another tool at them. And he gets shot. So, R.I.P. Zal. Anyone else have thoughts on this? Obviously, we're getting into Cassian starting to do something. But, yeah, tell me what your thoughts are with his spider monkey moves. Because he immediately decides to inflict pain.
I didn't have a ton of thoughts yet on this. I was kind of just in the moment. I was just like, I think I was just caught up in the emotions of us finally making a move to break out of the chains of the Empire. And I was all in on the attack. So in the chaos of the moment, I think I was just like, are we going to be successful or not?
That's a fair assumption. Aaron, Skylar, any thoughts on this prison riot?
I don't think so. That's about all I had in the prison, like at least the part like where they're breaking out of their own cell.
Yep, same.
Got it. Well, we get this moment where Andor, he finally gets up, he hits him with a kick to the leg and then a swift punch in the face, back to back, and really causes that guy some pain, takes the guy's gun, shoots the other guy with it twice just to make sure. And I definitely said, you need to shoot the guard you knocked out. And then he waited for him to come to, and start getting up, and then he shoots him. So he didn't want him to not be unconscious when he killed him. He really wanted to make sure, hey, you're awake, time to die. So we see that he is, of course, you know, pretty savage when it gets to the point. And we noticed that in his movie that we actually see with Rogue One, where he is not afraid to make the hard choices. So let's see. After the guards are knocked out, we get a classic climb from Kino, calling back to Nemec, of course, with our climb, which is, again, a theme, I would say, of the whole series. Climbing, getting up, getting out from where you are from the bottom and working your way up to the top. Somehow, again, we talk about the absolute disaster of these guards. I said somehow the guy at the desk does not think to leave the situation as people are getting shot and killed on his own team. He's like, I'm just going to wait it out. So he does not leave, and they just walk through the door and shoot him. So maybe could have been more, you know, instinctive, but nonetheless, that didn't work. And then you start to see, and this is where my worry was. I'd be interested to see if you guys had the same thought. So Ham, they get out, they get guns, and people start fanning out. And Ham, one of the guys from the Shockingly Productive, saves the day on one level. And initially, all the prisoners, they just look at him. And this is where I had like a gut concern. Like, are they going to be like too afraid to like leave? I don't know if anyone thought that. I was really concerned for about a second or two that was exactly, they were going to be like, oh, we can't do that. We can't leave. And be like, guys, you got to be kidding me. They went through all that and no one's even trying.
I did wonder that in a moment too.
Yeah, they had no... Oh, go ahead.
I think the hesitation there kind of shows like the illusion of power that the Empire had. You know what I mean? It kind of makes me think of the story of like the baby elephant that's tied up, you know, at the tribes. You know, when it's a baby, you tie it up with a rope so that it can't pull away from the rope and get it loose. And then as it grows, it becomes a full-fledged elephant that would be able to break the rope with ease because it's so powerful. But because it was trained from a young age that it's not strong enough to break free of its chains, it just believes that it is always going to be enslaved. And I think that hesitation is like, do we have the capability to break, you know, our chains or our rope? And I think them taking that hesitation moment, sort of, they're going through that process.
That's a really good description. I'd never heard that before about the elephant. So yeah, I mean, that's exactly what's going on. They are shocked at the fact that this is even possible. I said, you know, it'd be nice to have some enthusiasm from these guys, but, you know, they're shocked. They definitely don't understand. But you see people getting freed. You see people absolutely mowing through these guards because they have no military experience. And they finally get to the main room as they're talking about the guy on the, you know, I would call him basically the Wizard of Oz, right? He's talking into that voice, and he has the distorted voice and everything. And they're figuring out, like, hey, there's breaches here. There's what's going on this floor and that floor in this situation. And
I gotta tell you, when they first cut into that room, I like audibly like guffawed when I heard the guy's real voice. Like when it's like halfway in a sentence and they just break from like the deep like scary voice into his voice, like mid sentence, and it broke me. It was hilarious.
Yeah, not the epitome of power is that guy's voice, to say the least, right? Well, he gets there. Kino finally says, like, he's there, and he tells them, turn it off. And the guy says, the main leader, he's like, well, that could mean so many things. And I'm like, really, man? You're going to play with your life like this? I said, and then I wrote down, seemed to clear the message up pretty quick when he shoots that third guy. It's like, Because the second guy's like, I'll shut it off. I'll do that. But
My favorite part is the second guy that clarifies, you know it's going to take months to get power back, right?
yeah.
No, I think that's the point.
Yeah, I thought it was really good problem solving. He's like, I just want you to understand. And he's like, oh yeah, you don't care. Forgot about that. Yeah, I'll shut it down. I'll shut it down. But yeah, he has to shut it down. But what is it that shuts it all down? He's like, the hydropower can only be, shut down by the main guy. So it kicks back over to him. And that's where we get them moved over. And I think Andor, which I'm surprised it took him this long to say it, but he says, you remember what he tells them to do?
Doesn't he tell them to be on program?
Yeah, be on program, yes. And it's like he's like so surprised he can tell someone else that, but it's definitely so liberating that he could, because he's like, on program, and he's like, yeah, I can tell you to do that. How do you like it? Not fun. But then we get, and I'm sure we'll have some opinions here, and I don't have as many, so I hope you guys can carry this. We get our Kino Loy monologue. And it starts a little bit tepid. You know, it's not that great, and Andor has to hype him up. What do you guys think of the monologue there?
I have one note that it says, all floors are cold is an absolute baller line. In the middle of his, or towards the end of his monologue.
That is absolutely a sick way to say that too. I agree.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing kind of like mimicked his character arc through like what we've seen of him. You know, because he starts off like when the doubts start creeping in, he's like unsure, you know, and like nervous and kind of doesn't want to, and then he gets more emboldened as he goes, you know, throughout this series and throughout his speech, into like finally towards the middle and end of the speech, he's like being the leader that the guys there need him to be in order to make this escape. And also that like I think that goes back to like my original point of like that power shift between him and Cassian, where Cassian becomes the leader, because I think that he's getting that from Cassian, because he's the leader of the prisoners, but Cassian's leading him. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of shows how, like, you know, since Cassian started pouring that into him and emboldening him, it kind of grew throughout the episodes and throughout the speech too.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. It's a really good point. I didn't pick up on that, but I definitely see it now that you bring it up. Like, you just see that growth through the episode, through the whole series, and kind of crescendoing where he starts saying some pretty cold lines. Connor, again, I feel like this is your guy. I feel like Kino is one of your favorites.
Yeah, I really enjoyed him, and I will say, like, this speech, it started off really weak, you know, and I really liked how, at first you could, like, feel the hesitancy. He's like, am I the one that should be speaking right now? And, you know, Cassian looks at him, he's like, are you freaking kidding me right now? We are in the thick of it, and that's what you're going to tell the squad? Like, we got people in here, like, we have 5,000 prisoners, and we're trying to get everybody all on board, and you're just going to hit them with these lackluster lines. And then he just started to speak from the heart, and I think Aaron really nailed it when I think, like, that minimal speech and that interaction with Cassian really was a condensed version of his storyline and what he did, because he went from like that hesitancy to the point of like recognizing what he was doing was correct, and then he's like, hey, I struggle with this too, but we need to take up arms. And during the speech, I really liked some of the cut scenes that happened as well. Like, one of my favorite ones was whenever they would show like some of the guards, and he's like, we can overpower him, and you just see one guard all by himself, and he's just like looking up at the intercom going, oh no, because he can just feel like the confidence just rising up as the speech goes forward. And I want to say that like if I would have been a prisoner in this speech would have like got me even more like amped up to continue fighting, because towards the end, I mean, he was speaking purely from the heart and it was passion. Like this was not just like rah rah. This was like it's our time. Like you either are going to join us or you will forever regret it. And it kind of reminded me of like the Braveheart speech when he's like, you know, you can back out, and many years from now you're going to be on your bed, you know, dying of old age, or you could take the opportunity now. You may die, but you also may gain your freedom. And would you rather take the risk and live a life to the fullest, or are you just going to settle and live a mediocre life in prison for the rest of your life?
Yeah, man, great points. Absolutely. I wrote down that Andor telling Kino, "Is that all you got? Is that all you got?" Versus you get an earlier callback to our friend Linus and Karn. And Karn giving this absolutely lackluster motivational speech to his men, and Linus is like, amazing, very inspiring. Like, you know, you see, like, this is the dynamic has changed. You see that, like, how Andor, you need someone to be able to tell you, no, you got to give us more. And then the only line I have is, I would rather die trying to take them down rather than die giving them what they want, is Kino's big line, which of course is a callback to Andor's line at the beginning of the episode that he remembers. So kind of showing like that leadership, like Kino is, you know, a leader, but it's all coming from Andor. So, but then we get to the heartbreak of the whole episode, that you get to the top and everyone's finally escaping, and we see Kino just freeze. And man, just heartbreaking, because Andor says, what? And what does Kino say? What 2 words?
I can't swim.
Can't swim. He just shakes his head and kind of laughs. Like he's just like, I can't believe after all this, can't swim. And then we see Andor's knocked over the ledge before he can help. We don't know what happens. So that's tragic. I mean, after all that was really tragic to me. So,
yeah, that was heartbreaking. Like, I mean, I was like, are you serious? Because I was really bonding with this character, and I refuse to believe like that's the end. Like, he's got to come back in. I mean, something's going to happen, and I don't know how he's going to get off, but I hope this is not the end for him, and we'll see him come back, because I really enjoyed him. But like when he said that can't swim, it was just, you could just see it in his face as well. Like, it wasn't like sadness. It was just like, I mean, we did it, you know, and I'm happy that all of you get to go to your freedom. Like, it wasn't resentment. It was almost like he was at ease with what he did. He succeeded in his task, and although his path doesn't continue this way, he's happy that everyone else is done. Everyone else's does.
Is a great lead up towards the end of the episode that I'll bring back together.
Yeah.
At the end here.
Yeah, so we got 2 minutes to close this out, but we are back on Coruscant, and we get Lonnie, who is gonna meet Luthen, and Luthen finds out. We see that Luthen already knows all about Lonnie, our friend from the ISB, that he's a father, and Lonnie's talking about his concern for Deidre Miro, and her concern for Axis, and concern about Krieger and Spellhouse, and basically Luthen's bluffing. He's like, yeah, we're not involved in Aldhani, I'm not a problem, let him keep guessing. But Luthen essentially tells Lonnie, like, hey, I'm not going to warn him about Krieger because you're too important to this cause and you're not getting out of this situation. So no matter what, Lonnie knows that he has to sacrifice, and he asks Luthen what he has to sacrifice, and we get that build up to essentially say everything. I'm sacrificing everything. And I will say, Skylar, go ahead, and I will have one thing, and we'll close it out. Because we have
so basically, how Kino realizes everything he's doing for everyone else, he doesn't get to reap what he sows, and it's basically the exact speech that Luthen gives at the end there is basically he's giving up everything in his life for everyone else, and he's never going to see the benefit of it.
Man, that's a good transition that I did not catch. The only thing I did catch right at the end, we got 15 seconds, it says, Luthen says, we need all the heroes we can get. And do you know what cuts to at that exact moment when he says that?
Yeah, it's Cassian and Melshi.
Cassian and Melshi, absolutely. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back at it next